welcome back to my YouTube channel. Let's crack real math. My name is Viraaj, and in this video we're going to be having a look at how we can rearrange the subject of the formula. So without wasting time, let's get started. Right, so for our first example, we have y minus x is equal to 10. Now, in all the questions that I will do, I will make x the subject of the formula. So the goal is to get x isolated so that it can be subject. In this case, what you can do is minus x equals to 10 minus y. So you took the y to the other side, and when you take it, it comes from positive to negative. And obviously you know that when you have minus x, it just simply means x is equal to minus of whatever's on the other side. Now then, x equals to minus 10 plus y, because as we know, minus is the most dangerous sign in mathematics. Also, this could be written as y plus y minus 10. It's the same thing. You'll still get the same answer, and you should get your mark. Moving on to the next example, we have y is equal to x minus n over 2. Now, whenever you have a fraction on one side and you have a non-fraction on the other side, I usually cross multiply and usually works out. Of course, not all the time, but in this case, as you can see, it should pretty much work out. So you know this is over 1, so you cross multiply, you have 2y equals x minus 1 times 1 is the same thing as itself, so x minus n, and then making x the subject, this becomes x equals to 2y plus n. Moving on to the next example, we have y is equal to x squared over 3 plus 2. Now, you may be thinking that we can cross multiply over here as it is, but if you look, there's a 2 over here, and you might be thinking, oh, let's make this the same denominator times this by 3 times that by 3. That can work, but it's a long process. Something you can do much easier than that is that you can just take this 2 to this side, so it eventually becomes x squared over 3 equals y minus 2. Then you can cross multiply. So cross multiplying this, you have x squared equals to 3 into y minus 2, then x is equal to the square root of 3 into y minus 2, because when you take a square to the other side, it becomes square root. Now, if you want, you can expand this, but for the sake of this question, I'm just going to leave it like that. So moving on to our next example. This is a bit tricky, so please try and keep up. You can pause the video whenever you feel like you're lost and try and get your way through it. We have y is equal to 2 pi into the root of x over g. Now, at first look, this does look complicated, but as we know, this 2 pi is just being times by the root of x over g. So we can isolate the x over g first. So this simply becomes the root of x over g equals to y over 2 pi. Now, if you see, we're square rooting the whole of this. So if we square this, of course, the square root and this cancel out, and then we square the whole of this. Doing that, we have x over g equals to y squared all over 2 pi squared. Now this is the same as x over g equals to y squared all over 4 pi squared, because if you square 2 you get 4, and if you square pi you get pi squared. Now you can cross multiply. Now whenever you cross multiply, you need to make sure that is it beneficiary for you to multiply them out. So what I'm saying is, let's cross multiply the g and y squared. You get g y squared. Now if you cross multiply 4 pi squared with x, you would probably write 4x pi squared or x 4 pi squared. In this case, what we can do is we can just write 4 pi squared bracket into x. Even though we did not multiply them out properly, we know that they are being multiplied, and we need to do that because we need to isolate this x. So eventually x is gy squared all over 4 pi squared. That is your subject of the formula. Moving on to the next example, we have y is equal to bx plus c all over dx plus e, and we are making x the subject. So as you can see, probably the best thing to do in this scenario, since we have an x in the numerator, we have an x in the denominator, we can cross multiply it out first. So y into dx plus e is equal to, that's bx plus c. Okay, now because we have a dx over here, we can't simply say dx plus e equals to bx plus c over y, because there will still be an x over here, this x. So we need to make sure that we get rid of that x, and how we will do that is the question. So to do that, let's try and expanding this first. This would become y dx plus ye. Note that if you write dxy or ey, it's the same thing, so you don't need to stress about that. Y dx plus ye equals bx plus c. Now you want any term with x on one side, so we'll take this bx to the other side, and we'll take this ye to this side. So this eventually becomes y dx minus bx equals to c minus ye, because this becomes minus as the y becomes minus if it goes to the other side, and the bx also becomes minus if it goes to the other side. Now if you look at it carefully, you can see that this thing, this part over here, is factorizable. So taking the x, you have x into yd minus b equals to c minus ye. Now of course, if you do feel a bit uncomfortable, I don't want to say scared, because scared is not the right word, but you can again test this out just on another piece of paper. Just do this, y into d minus b, and just multiply them out, just expand it. You should get the same thing as over here. So this would eventually be, this would give y dx minus bx. So it is giving the same thing essentially. Now since our x is isolated, now all we have to do is do x equals to c minus ye divided by yd minus b, and that is your subject of the formula. And moving on to the final example, we have ax squared plus b equals c minus dx squared. Now again, we need to make x the subject of the formula, so let's take all our anything with x to this side, and anything not with x to this side. So we will now have ax squared plus dx squared equals c minus b, because b becomes minus and the dx squared becomes positive. Now, as you can see, x squared and x squared can easily be factorized, so this becomes simply x squared into a plus d. This is equal to c minus b. Now, you can simply do x squared is equal to c minus b all over a plus d. And your x is going to be the square root of this whole equation, that's c minus b all over a plus d. And that is your final answer. X has been made the subject of the formula in all the examples. So thank you for watching, guys. Please do perform an LSS, like, share and subscribe, and also please feel free to comment below for any feedback or questions you may have. Thank you for watching. Have a nice one, guys.